God damn, I need IPA.
This is Beering Ain't Easy, your podcast for beer humor, dad humor, and beer tastings from Texas and beyond. So crack one if you got one and turn it up.
Welcome to Beering Ain't Easy, Season 2, Episode 40, with Ryan and Drew.
Man, I am so glad to be back recording a beer podcast episode.
Me too, man. We keep saying it every single episode, but we're going to get back on track here, Drew.
Yeah, and no better way today. I don't know if you can hear the cicadas in the background, but we're doing a little kind of family get-together over Labor Day, and we're just chilling out in the Austin area out on the back porch. We heard some coyotes a little while ago, so I'm kind of secretly hoping that they break into the episode halfway.
That'll be our little segue soundbite.
Yeah, it was a little wild. It was like a coyote attacking a chicken. Like,
yeah, it was weird.
You had to be there.
Yeah, it's like the first day in like 2 months you've been able to actually sit outside and not die. So I'm pretty pumped right now.
I know. I'm not sweating out here. It's amazing.
I think there's only one thing to do.
That's the sound of refreshment. So today we have got an episode for y'all. A couple episodes back, we talked with Asa at the Flying Saucer, and we were inspired to maybe go back to some of these classic Euro beers that have been around for a while, but are, thought of as best in class in their style. So we've got a selection of the top Euro beers that have been around for a while.
Say most of the top Euro beers.
Yeah. So, yeah. It's a funny thought because the beers that I chose, we chose ones that all of y'all can find. These are very accessible beers, and they're also historically well known. These are beers that I found an article from back in 2010, and these beers, all 5 of them that we were drinking, were in the top 30 on Beer Advocate best beers in the world. I can't say that they're at that height now, but they're still great beers, and we're going to go one by one, talk about them. So, Ryan, why don't you get us started on the first one?
Well, you already mentioned Asa inspired us to do this one, so we're starting with the one he called out specifically, Duvel. Yeah, Belgian strong blonde, 8.5%. Drew, what's your history with Euro beers in general and Duvel specifically?
All the beers in front of us, not all of them, but specifically 2 of them. This one we're drinking, and then we'll get to Celebrator in a little while. I remember those as being some of my entry-level beers into craft beer, as well as like Chimay and some other Belgians like that. So when I think of Belgian beers, I think about some of the first ones that it really kind of opened my eyes to what else beer can be other than domestics. So Duvel is still awesome. And it's still considered on Beer Advocate the number 1 Belgian strong pale ale.
Oh, wow.
But when you look at it on a world score now, it's only 1,940, and it's got a score of 94 on Beer Advocate. So today we're gonna align with Beer Advocate for letting you know where they fall in the world. So it's still a classic beer. It pours a really nice frothy head on it, and it's refreshing. I like to call this one the official champagne of beers because it's very effervescent as well.
That's the thing that jumps out immediately to me. Yeah, it's just how carbonated it is. And props to you, sir, for using the adjective effervescent. That is only second to me, only to mouthfeel in describing beers.
I was kind of hoping it was going to be a German beer because then I could say it with like, effervescent.
Just sound angry when you say it?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, any German listeners out there.
So, what is your experience with Belgian beers and Duvel? Because I know it may not be your favorite beer, so I have a feeling we may be, maybe beefing in this episode.
Yeah, I've always stayed away from Euro beers just because I'm not crazy about the kind of that like clove, that kind of like plum kind of fruitiness kind of tasting yeast. It's just never just really treated me great. I don't dislike it. It's fine. And I've actually started coming around in the past year to like Hefeweissens. So I'm getting there. I'm trying, Drew. I'm coming into this with a completely open mind. I want to be blown away here.
Yeah, I saw a meme that was talking about people that are haze boys and like the way to like get them to drink other beer styles is to give them a Hefeweizen. Try something different.
Yeah, it's like the circle of craft beers. Like you go far enough into the hazies that you come back around to like the Belgians.
Yeah, you're drinking some old world beers. The other thing that I think is going to be kind of interesting for this episode that we can talk about is that, I mentioned that all the beers that we're drinking in 2010 were all top 30 in the world. But now, if I had to ask you how many beers from Europe do you think are in the top 100 Beer Advocate score beers, how many would you say?
I mean, I'm going to guess the two, the Weihenstephaner and the Duvel, I would guess would still be hanging around, kicking around somewhere.
Actually, none of these beers fall in the top 100 anymore.
Wow.
And actually, European beers in general, there's only like 6 in the top 100, and they're all like lambics and that type of beer. Like we're not even touching those. That probably needs to be its own episode because I've never even ventured into those styles. And the question that I have is, these are beers that have been around. Like Duvel's been around since 1871, and a lot of these have been around forever, and they're all still kind of top of the class in their beer styles. So I feel like they're type of beers that like 10 years from now you come back and they're still thought of as good beers. Whereas some of these ones in the top 100 now, those breweries may not even exist in 10 years because they're, flash in the pan. Like I think the top 3, there were 2 from Toppling Goliath and some other places like that, these stouts. And so those beers may not exist in 10 years, but these, I feel like they're still going to be there and you can rely on them.
No.
But while we're drinking this one, before we get your thoughts on it, I think we had a little bit of beer news we wanted to catch up on first. What do you got for us, Ryan? I know you had a few things on your mind.
I mean, we need to start doing our podcast more consistently again because the news is flying fast and furious. I mean, I think the big one is Anheuser-Busch selling off 7 brands.
That was wild. So like some of the 7 brands they had, like Breckenridge, I think Shock Top, nothing that I'm drinking, but it's wild that there's kind of a craft purge. And we, I think last time we talked about the Constellation brands, selling back some of the craft brands too. So I don't know that I'd call Shock Top a craft brand, but Breckenridge at one point in time was craft beer, I guess.
Oh, actually it was 8 brands, not 7. So it was, Shock Top, Breckenridge, Blue Point, 10 Barrel, Red Hook, Widmer Brothers, Square Mile Cider Company, and Highball Energy. So actually, a cider company and an energy drink company. So we'll say 6 breweries.
Let's differentiate here. We're talking about beer.
But I've always felt like Red Hook I thought was that ever independent? Or was that always like the craft version from Anheuser-Busch?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Red Hook's one of those breweries that I've just like never given a second. And Shock Top too. I thought Shock Top was like always an in-house brand.
It was a home brewed. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I'm not going to look it up.
Yeah, moving on. But if we're on the AB InBev topic, if you want to like do a callback to one of our previous episodes where we talked about the whole Bud Light saga, having a trans person promote their products and causing all these people to go crazy. Well, Kid Rock, one of those notable folks that took out an AR-15 while crying and was firing it, he had a firing squad on his Bud Lights. He was caught at a concert about a month ago drinking a Bud Light. So obviously he's moved on. The news cycle's moved on. He's back to drinking Bud Light again. So
he saw the next shiny object.
All is right in the world. I mean, if you're trying to decide which beer to drink based on Kid Rock, then you may be doing a little bit of flip-flopping.
Well, hey, if we're going to be machine gunning AB InBev topics, I have a little inside scoop news for you.
Oh!
Relating to Karbach. So I've heard that, first of all, that they're opening a tap room in Katy. No idea where. Just heard that was happening. The other thing I heard was happening was they're opening like a pizzeria restaurant. Like they have their normal restaurant and they serve some pizzas there. But apparently they're opening like a full-on pizzeria, which the details aren't clear. They have an event space upstairs and I've never heard of anyone actually having an event there. So maybe they're just turning the upstairs into the pizzeria and then the downstairs is a regular restaurant. That would make sense to me. Have you ever been to Surly Brewing up in Minnesota?
No, I have not. I've never been to Minnesota.
So, first of all, you're missing out, sir.
I'll withhold my judgment until I go up there. It's really far north, man. I don't like the cold.
Hey, it is incredible in the summer. But anyway, that's exactly how Surly's set up, is they have like a pizzeria upstairs, and then their whole downstairs, like, it's like a beer hall that's like full service restaurant and stuff. And then they have like the outside beer garden. So it's like extremely similar to the way Karbach's set up. So it would be pretty fitting if they just turned that upstairs into a pizzeria. But anyway, there's the inside scoop rumor news, breaking news on the Beer Gain Easy podcast. Now I just really hope it actually comes true.
Most of our news is a few weeks late, so if you come up with something that's a few weeks early, then that hopefully will balance out a little bit.
Yeah, right. Which I guess I'll just parlay that into my next thing. And this one's not a rumor. This one's true. I saw this one in, I think, the Houston Chronicle. But speaking of tap room openings for breweries in Houston, did you hear that they're opening a spindle tap room in Hobby Airport?
Oh, yes, I did hear that. And that is amazing. I mean, like, Hobby Airport is always, like, it needs work, man. Like, you go through there and you're like, dude, can you, like, get something worthwhile in there? And all you need is a spindle tap, I think.
So, when was the last time you flown out of Hobby?
I actually just recently flew out of there, and it looked a lot better than it had, but it's still, there was a lot of vacancies.
Yeah, I knew they had been expanding it and stuff. And I haven't been there probably since like my bachelor party. Did I fly to Hobby? Yeah, I think I did. I think that was the last time I went. But it was like the Wild West where you could like, they had like beer stands in the middle of the aisles. I've never seen that in any other airport. Is it still like that?
No, they got rid of the ice in the middle. But it was like weird because a lot of the restaurants are like, the old restaurants are kind of like out, but the new ones aren't in yet, like Spindle Tap, and they're going to bring in a couple other places. So it's kind of, it's a little bit of a like food desert right now. So it still needs help. And so, but Spindle Tap, like that's all you need. And you just completely elevate the airport, like add a star to that airport rating.
Can you imagine how many more flights are going to get missed with a bunch of like haze bros like passing out on the bar at Spindle Tap?
There should be some statistics of how many people throwing up on a flight. And if it goes up 3 triples in a row, baby, get on that flight. So I polished off my Duvel here, so I need to know final thoughts. Are you a fan? Is it too much Belgian-y for you?
It's got that Belgian flavor.
You could do better than that, Ryan.
No, it definitely has that. Yeah, the Belgian yeast kind of. Yeah, like that estery. I'm trying to think of adjectives here. I'm
just gonna.
It's a little minerally.
I'm gonna leave you out to hang you out to dry there.
I'm flailing here. I need a life jacket. No, like it's I finished it. It's pretty good. Like it tastes very clean, regardless of how I feel about the flavors. You can just tell how well made of a beer it is. How's that?
Okay, I'll allow it.
It's not as off-putting of a flavor as I feel like it used to be for me.
Okay.
So we'll see. Maybe I'm coming around.
Well, I think this one, like being like that pale, like the Belgian, strong pale, is it's not as overpowering as you get from a quad, and so to me it's a little more refreshing. But all Belgian beers have that sweetness, almost a little bit syrupy. But like this one with all the effervescence and everything, I'm definitely a big fan. So I think at the end of this, we're kind of going from lowest rated to highest rating. So we'll see if our ratings today match up with that, or if we need to swap it around a little bit.
You're telling me if these 4 Duvels the lowest rated?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm going to introduce us to the next beer. So we're moving into the home country in Germany. So this may be more up your alley, Ryan. It's not a Belgian. It is, in fact, a Doppelbock. And not only is it a Doppelbock, it is the finest Bavarian Doppelbock, Celebrator from Ayinger. Is that?
Hey, that sounds great to me.
I just did like a German accent. I just tried to see if I could hit it. But
this episode is going to get us canceled, I think.
we literally, we probably have it on tape because we were recording earlier, but we were literally trying to like decide which of us was going to pronounce which beer, and we were like, should we look it up? Should we actually get the correct pronunciation? It was like, we'll just wing it. So here we are, folks.
So we were practicing different pronunciations and seeing how they sounded.
Yeah, which one sounded the best to us? I gotta say, it's a little fun doing this in person again, especially when we're sharing like 10% ABV beers or whatever.
Yeah, I guess for some background for the listeners, we have 2 Belgians and 2 German beers. I don't know if we clarified that when we said we had 4 European beers.
We actually have 5 European beers, and we'll get to that. We had 5 European beers, and one of them didn't make it here, so we're gonna have to talk about that in a minute. We got the top 5. That's the top 5 beers here. So a little background on this beer in particular. So like I mentioned before, it used to be in the top 30 with the rest of them. Now it is number 852. It's got a score of 96, but it's still considered the number 1 Doppelbock and the number 3 best beer in Germany. Wow. Have you had this beer before?
They may have it at King's Beer House, and if so, I've probably had it. I tend to get off. They have their best beers in the world list, and I tend to order off that. Mm-hmm. And I do drift towards the Doppelbocks a lot. So if this was on that menu at any point, I may have actually had it. What about you?
I remember this beer as being one of the first Europeans that I had at the Flying Saucer, actually. And I remember at the time thinking it was like so heavy and overpowering. I was like, oh, how could people drink this as a beer? Because it was like going from like a lager to this. It's a lot. But now, as I'm a little bit more seasoned beer drinker, the nose on it right off the bat is like almost a little boozy, almost a little bready. Like I love the nose on it. It's delicious smelling.
Yeah, I agree. That was my first thing to say. I went to smell it and I was like, oh, whoa. And then had a taste. And yeah, it drinks a lot lighter than it smells.
Yeah, it smells like you're about to hit like a bourbon barrel stout. But it's only 6.7% alcohol, so it's really not. It's actually less than the Duvel. So
it's got such a full, deep flavor, but it finishes so clean and light that it's just like, yeah, you immediately want to go back for another sip. It's just like, I don't want to exactly say roastiness, but it's got that like dark maltiness, but it doesn't drink heavy at all. Like, yeah, this one's way more up my alley, Drew. I'm into this one.
I can't remember the last time I had one of these, but man, it's a really good beer. I highly recommend this one.
There's almost some like chocolatey notes coming in at the end. Like, yeah.
I do believe we've got glassware from Germany, and
I'll say Drew did a solid and showed up with some Chimay goblets, and the owner of this house we're renting actually had some German mugs, like straight up from Germany. So this worked out pretty perfect.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about like glassware makes a difference, and if it's from the home country, you automatically taste better, I think.
Yeah, drinking out of like a mini gold rimmed Stein.
I'm waiting for your German accent too.
I just did it. Stein.
Most of my German accent came from the movie Cool Runnings, so
I'm sure that was completely authentic.
Yeah, just like the story of the Jamaican bobsled team. There's no false narratives in the story at all. Beering Ain't Easy, the podcast where dumb Americans talk about other countries with ignorance.
I keep saying Aying. I bet it's like Aying or something. I don't know.
Watch us mispronounce
whatever.
Beer.
Yeah. How long has this brewery been around?
1878. So, this is going to be the test. Which one's the oldest? So far, this is the second oldest. I got to say, if I'm stacking these two beers up next to each other, I'm choosing this one, man. This is a great beer.
I agree with you. I'm enjoying this very much. And if these other ones are rated even higher, like, we're headed in the right direction.
Since we're not drinking it today, it's one of the beers that we couldn't find. The number 2 beer in Germany is actually Kloster Kreuzberg Dunkel. And I tried to search in our local area if we could get it within 100 miles of Houston, and that was a big negatory, so it has neglected to make it on the podcast today. So that's why we're drinking number 3. But if this is number 3, I'm looking forward to drinking number 1.
Yeah. Props for looking up to 100 miles for it.
That's the kind of dedication I have to this podcast, Ryan. I may not be able to make it to every brewery in the Houston area, but by God, I'll go find a Euro beer within 100 miles.
Yeah, let's not dive into that too much. What do we got next year? What's number 2?
Not number 2. This is actually the number 1 beer in Germany, and you've got it right in front of you, and you have to announce it with perfect German accent.
So I have had this one for sure at King's Beer House, and I've also had different. This is the Hefeweissbier. I've also had a different one that they make. I don't remember exactly which one, but I've always called it Weihenstephaner. But I'm pretty sure that it's actually Weihenstephaner or something somewhere similar to that. I think I'm leaving out a syllable.
So it's all about the emphasis, right? Getting the emphasis on the right.
Weihenstephaner. I don't even think it's Hein. I think it's Weihenstephaner.
Weihenstephan.
Hey, that sounded good. Let's go with that.
Yeah. Between the two of us, we may be able to get it right after enough repetition.
We fabricate our own reality over here.
Yeah, I've had this one as well, and I believe mainly at King's Beer Garden. So if you're in the Houston area and you want good German beer, that's definitely a place you can go.
And it's always nice at King's Beer House when they offer you a half liter or a full liter. And it always kind of challenges your manhood a little bit. So you always say the liter, and then they bring out this massive thing. And then like halfway through it, you're like, why didn't I just get 2 half liters?
Yeah. Do you want to be half of a man, or do you want to be a full man?
You hook your hand through the handle, and then that handle digs into your hand, and it leaves a big mark and dentine. It's a whole thing.
And when it's like summertime, I know you're supposed to drink German beers warm, right? But like in Houston, you're not supposed to drink it hot. And if you're drinking like a full liter beer and you step outside and you're listening to their live music or whatever, that beer gets freaking almost unenjoyably hot.
It's got that banana aroma.
Yeah, definitely bananas. That's like number 1 for Hefeweizen.
Relatively carbonated, not as much as the Duvel, but I got to tell you, Drew, I'm coming around on the Hefeweizens. I think this one's really good.
It is. I mean, it's not my favorite beer style, but this is considered the number 1 Hefeweizen in the world still, and I think for good reason. I mean, if you're going to drink one of these, this is the one to grab.
Yeah, the world's oldest brewery since 1040.
Whoa,
That's
shit!
Crazy.
Okay, so this one's going to win the oldest brewery competition tonight.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned before, number 1 best German beer, number 1 Hefeweizen, but only beer number 436 in the world, according to Beer Advocate right now. So it's pretty wild, man. Like most of these, we haven't even cracked like the hot top 250 yet. It seems a little wrong.
It makes you question Beer Advocate a little bit.
Is it an American app? I mean, come on. No. But it is a little weird, though, that it's these beers, like the Celebrator was the number 1 Doppelbock. This was the number 1 Hefeweizen. So that tells me that the styles have just moved on, right? These are not styles that people want anymore. All the beers that were in the top 250 were all stouts and hazies. I mean, it was like stouts, hazies, and if you wanted Euro beer, you're drinking lambics and other things like that. In other words I can't pronounce.
That is like
goose, goes,
goose.
Yeah,
that is actually interesting to think about. You think of like Beer Advocate as such like a no offense to any of them, but like kind of like the snobbiest of the craft beer like
oh yeah
corners of
especially
the
compared to Untappd.
yeah. People doing these like absolutely over the top breakdowns of like color and aroma and head and like all this different stuff. But clearly they're susceptible to the bias of the popular styles at the time.
Oh yeah, no question.
I mean, not being like more high and mighty. I fall susceptible to that too. Like, give me those hazies, but
yeah, that's why I'm asking. Like 10 years from now, like these beers are still going to be around, and some of those beers that are above it may not be because like they may be a style that just comes and goes. But these styles are, I don't know, classic styles.
That's true. And when we're drinking those fruited wild ale stouts in 10 years or whatever they come up with.
fruited
this one will
wild
still
ale
be
stout.
This one will still be waiting for you.
Oh, it's like Jester King Martin House combo. Oh God, don't do that ever, please. No coyotes yet. It's kind of disappointing.
I say they have respect for the artistry at work over here, Drew.
All right, Ryan. Before we hit our last beer, I do have a callback from one of our previous episodes that I've been sitting on for like 2 months.
So I probably don't remember it.
Yeah.
What you got?
So when we did the Fat Tire episode, we talked about sustainable beer, and we talked about kind of that whole thing where I think they called it like the scorched earth or torched earth beer, where they made it taste like something after global warming. Well, someone won up to that on a beer trial, and there is a company that used recycled wastewater from an apartment building to brew beer. How do you feel about that, Ryan? How do you feel about drinking a beer made with recycled gray water from sinks and showers?
Please tell me that it was actually titled after that and it wasn't just like put into circulation and then they told everyone after the fact.
No, apparently this was like a concept test. They couldn't put this to market because, rightly so, it is heavily regulated to sell a food and drink product that comes from something that may have touched human contact.
Yeah, I mean, there's wastewater treatment, right? Like, kind of like a lot of water is recycled, but it depends the extent of what they did with it. If they just like took it and like distilled out the actual water part of it, like, I don't know. There's a little bit of question of, there's some gray area here.
I'm going to throw a curveball that I started thinking about because this is where my head goes. So first off, it was called Epic One Water Brew from Epic Clean Tech and Devil's Canyon Brewing Company. And it was from a 40-story San Francisco apartment building. The guy that wrote the article that I'll try to post in the episode notes said that it was very drinkable. He wouldn't have been able to tell. But the question I have to ask is like, if this is from an apartment complex building, from sinks and showers, not from toilets, it's separate plumbing. But what do people do in the shower? Ryan, people pee in the shower. How do you feel about?
Oh yeah, that part.
Yeah. How do you feel about drinking beer from the shower that may or may not contain trace levels of urine?
And other bodily fluids.
I don't know that I could get past that from a mental block standpoint. When I started, like, when I first thought, I was like, oh, it's soapy water, no big deal. But then I was like, wait, there's something else that goes in those pipes.
Yeah, not
Are you a pee in the shower guy?
Not normally. I mean, I definitely have, but not like consistently.
You don't wait to pee just to go in there?
What about you, Drew?
Well, funny you should ask, right? No. I actually was like opposed to it. I thought it was weird for the longest time. And then someone opened my mind to the possibility that, hey, it's going down the same plumbing anyway. Might as well you save time. And, I'm not opposed to it now. So I definitely know if it's a 40-story San Francisco building, even if you have a 50% pee rate, that's a lot of urine going down this. Yeah. This is what I really want to talk about today, Ryan.
I don't care how diluted that is. This 6-pack tastes more pungent than the last one did.
So moving on to our next beer.
Yeah.
So before we get to the highest rated beer on here, we were supposed to have a fifth beer, Ryan. And where it would have fallen on our rankings is it would have been the second best beer. But what happened to that beer, Ryan? Why do we not have 5 in front of us today?
I mean, honestly, this is kind of a miracle that this happened. I mean, it was unlucky that we don't have it here tonight. But my wonderful wife was getting ready for this weekend, came home with a ton of beer from the store when she was grocery shopping. So she's shuffling stuff all over the place in our garage beer fridge. And when she's pushing stuff to the side, this bottle falls off onto the concrete, lands on its cap instead of on the glass, and it starts spraying out beer. So it actually didn't shatter and break. But the seal was broken. It was leaking out. I didn't want it to go flat. So I texted Drew a picture. I opened it up and I poured it in the glass and I drank it.
So first off, shame on you for blaming your wife on this. This is obviously your problem. But I did see the text message and I poured it myself, and I actually wrote down notes. And so I actually, this was the beer that we were supposed to drink. Thanks, Ryan. Was it Bernardus, St. Bernardus, Abbott 12? It's a quad. It was the number 4 quad in the world, number 15th Belgian beer out there, and number 246 on Beer Advocate. And I liked it a lot. I know that's not your type of beer. It was very sweet. There was lots of clove, lots of spices, a little syrupy, little candy and caramel, but nice warmth. It was smooth, very nice drinking beer.
Someone did take notes.
Better notes than the ones that we've had on the other beers. I actually thought about it versus us just drinking in the moment and talking.
I was going to say, I'm like very impressed.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's it was good. I enjoyed drinking it. Given a lineup of some random beers, like I wouldn't be like, ooh, I need to have that one, but I'm glad that I was able to have it. I appreciate you getting it for me, Drew, and I'm sorry that I put my wife in a position to get it knocked off. This is all on me. My bad.
That's better. Oh man. All right. But we are going to count that one when we come back to say which our favorite beers are in the order. That one's getting counted in the mix. Which takes us to our last beer tonight. Speaking of bad pronunciations, we're not sure if this one's going to work or not, but we're back to another quad. So quads are still a very popular style, but apparently not in the top 250. This is Trappiste Rochefort.
3 syllables.
Rochefort. Okay. And it's the 10. There's a 8 out there, but it's a different style. And so you want to make sure you're getting the 10 if you're going for this one. And this one is the number 3 quad in the world and number 11 best Belgian beer. And you're asking yourself, why are so many Belgians ahead of this? Again, it's those aforementioned Lambic style beers. But there's some notable quads, the number 1 and 2 quads that I'll talk about in a minute. But just to ground us here, this is actually the number 173 beer in the world, which seems like a shame, but we'll find out when we pour this beer. Wow, this one is pouring super dark, but I guess the Bernardus was kind of like this too. I smell that same sweet candy, caramel.
Hear the carbonation.
Oh yeah. Let's see if we can get that to the mic. Ooh. Oh yeah. If that comes through.
This is now an ASMR podcast.
Can you hear that? Oh, that's nice.
It's
Oh, this is nice. I don't know if your woo was a good woo or a bad woo.
It was just the aroma.
Oh, this is a very tasty beer. Man. A lot of complex flavors on this one. Ryan's looking at his beer, still not sure if he likes Belgians.
I enjoy this one. This one's very good. The aroma's very strong, like probably the strongest aroma of anything we've had. Yeah, it's got the very candy-y sweetness, but it's like boozy, and it's like it's got a kick, like it's got substance for sure. And I'm into it. I like it.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, I think quads in general, you have that warmth and that smoothness. It's like drinking it's almost like drinking a nice stout.
Yeah, and when I say that candy, what I mean is, I guess I need to specify. It's like almost like a caramelized sugar kind of.
Oh yeah, that's a great that's a great example or great descriptor. So when I think about quads, since we talked about we only got the number 3 and number 4 quads. Oh shit, y'all. We got the coyotes again. It sounds like they're like slaughtering somebody. Fuck.
Dude, that's chickens again. It's coyotes going after chickens.
Going after chickens? Oh my god.
That's wild.
It's a little bizarre, man.
We got National Geographic going on out here.
If this podcast ends abruptly, then rest in peace, Ryan. So what I was trying to say is we were drinking the number 3 and number 4. Quads number 1 and 2. Number 1 is the one that I've always heard about, but it's the Trappist West-Vlaanderen 12. You've heard of the West-Vlaanderen, right? Yeah. Yep. I had a buddy of mine that went to Belgium, and that's one of those places where the monks make it. They only sell it like at the monastery and then at a small bar that's across the street from it. That's the only place that beer is sold. But at one point in time, it was considered the best beer in the world. And right now, it's number 50. It's considered number 50 in the world, but it used to be the best. So I feel like that's like a slap in the face to the Belgians. But
hello, Mr. Monk. Do you even haze?
Yeah. Yes. What kind of hops you using, brah? You got that cryo shit?
Yeah, this beer's pretty good, bro. But you ever think about dry hopping it?
Yeah, double dry hop. So if we were like big ballers, we would have our hands on that. But we got the beers that were available within 100 miles of Houston. So
I don't know if they still do it, but they used to have really strict rules about like reselling it.
Yeah, I looked it up. You can, when you go there, you can buy I think you can buy like one case, but that's it. Like that's the most you can buy. So they don't have those like beer peddlers buying like truckloads full of it and then flying over the U.S. and charging 10 times more. I don't know that anyone would do that though. That would be like that would be a lot of work. Someone would though.
I would not put it past people to do that.
But what's weird is the number 2 quad in the world is actually from Side Project. So it's actually a U.S. beer is the number 2 quad, which kind of feels wrong. But I mean, I've heard good things about Side Project, so can't say that I've ever had their beers.
So you're treading lightly before talking shit.
Yeah. In case they want to sponsor us, you know. We've had some good beers tonight, though. These do not disappoint. I do need to, if we're drinking the Belgians, I do want to throw a shout out. So when we were living in Oakland, there was a beer bar there. It was called the Trappist, and they almost exclusively sold like Euro beers and Trappist beers in particular. And they had like a great selection. And it was like this super dark bar that you just walked in and like very casual. You pop in, get some really good beer. So it's still around.
Oh yeah, that sounds cool. If you like European beers.
If you're into that sort of thing.
That sounds cool for you.
Oh man. I don't think Ryan's sold. I think we need to get some recaps here on this episode to see if Ryan has come around to the Euro beers, or if he's sticking if he's full on haze bro, he's gonna double dry hop this Rochefort.
I'm still searching for that crispy monk.
I love it. Crispy monk. It is kind of interesting that I know there's small breweries in Europe that are trying new styles and innovating and all of that, but it's like I feel like the US is all about like chasing after what's popular right now, and Europe's just like, hey, I'm cool. I got Guinness. I got some other things. I'm going to keep making what's good, and people are going to come back, you know, even if they leave tomorrow for Side Project, they're going to come back. So I guess that comes with having a country that's been around a lot longer than the U.S. is they feel like they've got the time. You know, if I don't wow you today, I'll wow you 200 years from now.
So they're established. They have tradition.
Yeah.
And the U.S. has capitalism and chasing the most popular thing.
I'm really thrilled the Coyotes made it into this episode. That's all I got to say.
My rankings are locked, Drew. I don't know about you.
I'm locked and loaded.
Guys, we're gonna count down from bottom to top for us.
Yeah, I think so.
Right. This feels wrong, but I think I got to put the is it Saint Bernardus or Saint Bernardus?
I'm going with Bernardus, but one of us will be right.
Oh no, I'll go with you, man. We're gonna ride this train. The Bernardus, I got to put that one last of all these.
Oh, do you remember why?
Yeah, so it had a kind of like some of the similar flavors. I feel like you said, the caramel, some of that like kind of richness and stuff. But I don't remember it finishing as like crisp and clean as say like the Rochefort. So I feel like it was kind of like in that world, but just like didn't have me going back like this other one did. And the other ones, of the ones we tried tonight, were like more refreshing. So I kind of like just bumped those up past. I don't know.
Okay. I can respect your decision there. I don't agree with it, but I'll respect your decision.
It's hard.
I loved all 5 of these beers. I'm not going to lie. I did not taste a beer that I did not like tonight, and I don't think anyone that's a listener would dislike the beer. So, but I don't think you liked that beer, though, right? You actually disliked it.
So
I can call you out here.
I have a little piece of paper here, and I was kind of grading since all the kids went back to school this week. I gave every one of these beers a grade as my ranking system, and I gave the Bernardus a C-.
Oof.
But hey, this is the Eurobeer episode. I am a self-proclaimed not a Eurobeer fan, and a C- was my lowest grade.
Okay.
So it was a passing grade. I would not turn it away. I don't go, not for me. You know what? I'm turning over a new page here. All right.
C-. I can't get past that. Yeah, whatever. So I actually aligned with Beer Advocate here, and it feels wrong because I always think Duvel is fantastic beer, very refreshing, but I actually put that one as my least out of all the group, which Beer Advocate did too. So maybe I'm just a simple man that likes conforming with the website.
I gave Duvel a C. That was my fourth.
Your fourth, okay.
So it was pretty close to you. It had this basically what I don't like about Belgians. It made those flavors shine. Damn, son. So I actually did have the Bernardus beer as my number 4, so we're pretty close. But my scale is different. I'm not in the C's. Like, there's nothing less than a B for me. So like, I think the Duvel and the Bernardus are both in like I didn't actually think of it in those terms, but I think those are both B beers for me. Like, I mean, we could do the Untapped scale if you wanted to go to 5.0 if you wanted to, but like, I thought those were both great beers. I liked them both, but that's where they fell. So what's your number 3? So I skipped C+, I skipped B-. I went all the way to B.
Okay.
For the Weihenstephaner Hefeweissbier. That was my B. Very much enjoyed it. I say I don't like the banana clove flavor in these other beers, but this one was subtle and went away super fast and finished clean. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. That was my number 3.
That was actually my number 3 too. I think you could drink a pitcher of that beer. It's great. It's refreshing. That's a B+ beer for me. So just get on my scale. I'm trying to get on your scale here.
All right.
So it's a B+. It's really good.
I respect that. I had a B+ beer as well.
Okay. What was that?
So these last 2 were the ones I had to do a side-by-side tasting. I poured a little more of each, tried them side by side. So my B+ beer was the Doppelbock.
Okay.
We were talking so fondly about it, talking about how great it was, and it still is, but it is a little bit syrupy on the finish. It had just a little bit of a lingering kind of stickiness almost. So when you try it next to the Trappiste Rochefort, it just finished a little cleaner. It had that extra little bit of carbonation. It just was more refreshing, and it made me want to go back to that one over the Doppelbock. So I will say I gave the Rochefort an A-. Belgian beer, creeping up into the A's, Drew.
Hey,
I feel like this is the breaking news.
this is a big moment for you, Ryan. I want to pause and just reflect on that. I agree with you 100%. I drank both of them, and oh man, that Rochefort 10, man, that beer is an A+ for me. That beer is so good. I loved it. And it kind of blew the rest of them away for me. Celebrator was still really, really good. But when I drank it, like you said, when you go back to that side-by-side, it was like, man, this beer is just fantastic. So highly recommend that one. And we more or less landed where Beer Advocate did. So we can talk all the shit we want about it, but they weren't that wrong here.
Yeah. We pretty closely aligned with each other. Very closely aligned with Beer Advocate. Are we basic?
Well, obviously, I'm more basic because I had a higher rating scale, but you weren't quite as convinced. You're a little more, I respect your patriotism. There were no American beers on the table today, and so you couldn't give anything an A+ because it wasn't from the US of A. Am I right? So I think we're coming to a close, Ryan. This has been fun. It's really nice out, but it's gotten a little sticky out here. I'm a little worried about the coyotes creeping up on us tonight. So I think we need to close this episode out. I had fun drinking Euro beers with you. It's cool to do this in person. We should do this more often. Faux show. Do you have anything to close us out tonight?
I agree, man. Thanks for rounding all these up and forcing me to get outside of my comfort zone. I told you I was coming around a little bit. I think I'm coming around even more. So it makes me excited. Just more beers to try. Like, who can hate that? So, like I said, school's back in session. You teachers are all stars out there. Keep doing your thing. Even though the Trapiche Rochefort is an A-, I'm looking for that double dry hopped hazy crispy boy coming out this summer so I can finally give out my first A+ of the semester.
That's what the monk said. We'll see y'all next week. This has been a Beering Ain't Easy production out of Houston, Texas. Follow us on Instagram or Facebook or at our website at crossthestreamsmedia.com, where you can find our podcast and all the other great sister podcasts on our network.
This has been a Cross the Streams Media Podcast.
How do you say it? Weihenstephaner. Hefeweissbier. Hefeweissbier.
Weihenstephaner.
Meaning a white.
You said Hefeweissbier. Weihenstephaner. Wait.
Right.
This is a type of German beer from the Weihenstephaner Brewery.
Weihenstephaner.
It's fantastic.
Did I hear some German accent creeping in on that fantastic?
It's the best beer in the world. No, that's terrible.